Displacement has become a silent emergency in Nigeria. From insurgency in the northeast to communal violence in the middle belt and flood displacement in the south, millions now call makeshift IDP camps home. But many of these camps are barely habitable. Too often, they are hastily constructed for optics, conveniently timed around election cycles, by the way, and donor visits, and then abandoned to rot. What starts as a humanitarian promise quickly degenerates into bureaucratic negligence with poor sanitation, food shortages, zero health care, and no long-term plan for reintegration.
So, joining us to discuss this deeply urgent issues are Mercy Ajibade, Miss Aura Peace Ambassador and Advocate for Displaced Persons. She's here in the studio with us. We have joining us Dr. Mohammed Goje. He's the Executive Secretary of the Yobe State Emergency Management Agency and one of the few public officials who has worked directly in field. A bit of correction there, that's Mercy Babajide in the studio with us. Apologies there.
Apologies.
Yeah. Thank you very much. But let's start in the studio here with us, Mercy. Mercy, thank you very much for your advocacy, first of all. Let's put that straight. Yeah. It's always very good to see people use their position to help advocate for causes that are genuine, noble of you. However, I would like to know exactly what the factors are. Let's talk about the gaps, first of all, when it comes to displaced persons, especially women and children. How does Nigeria treat these individuals that has caused your advocacy?
Okay, thank you for that question. I would first like to say good morning, Nigerians, and it's nice to be on the program here live. So I would start with a background story of what led to me visiting IDP camps. Way back, I'm a broadcast journalist, and way back we have, I used to have a colleague that visits one of the IDP camps in Durumi, Abuja. And then she just called one day and she's like, oh, do you want to visit this place with me? Then I got there and I saw the state at which that place was. It was something that, trust me, I feel like words will not do justice to what that place really looks like.
Give us an idea, a picture.
I think I sent someone the video. So let me just give you a mental picture of what it looks like. So a few months back, I went there, and that was before it started raining in Abuja. And then in my head, I'm like, just one little rain in Abuja, and with the fact that the rains in Abuja, they come with wind. So I'm like, before you know it, this is going to
collapse.
Yeah, collapse. And I traveled, came back, and then one of their teachers reached out to me, and she showed me videos of what the place was like, because the place is basically just built with roofing sheet. So come rain, come sunshine, makeshift arrangement. And it's not just makeshift, it's the fact that the environment is dirty. It's not just fit for any human to stay there, basically. That's what I can say. And the last time I was there, I remember I could perceive goats. And I was wondering, oh, what's wrong? What's going on? And they said, oh, one of their maybe headmasters, or I can't remember, said he turned one of the classes to where goats would.
This is a facility for education that is being used
for education.
Yeah, for IDP, camps or children living in IDP camps. It's being repurposed for rearing animals. So both children and animal share the facility.
Basically.
That's unfit.
I have a very unfit joke in my head, but I'm going to let it slide. I can't help it. I mean, I have to come to you, Dr. Goje, and ask this question, right? As she's pointed out, just painted this very sad mental picture for us and what the state of IDP camps are like across Nigeria. One begs to ask the question as to why is that? Why is this neglect? You know, why there's so much corruption around it? And why exactly are we still having IDP camps in Nigeria to begin with, giving our resources? But let me leave it to you. Why does it fall to so much neglect?
Thank you very much for having me this morning. I think for us to understand this very clear, we have to go back to look at the context and also know what we are dealing with, the population size we are dealing with. That will give us a heads on. To start with, Nigeria faces one of Africa's largest displacement crises because of the decade-long insurgency, and worse is from the northeast part of Nigeria, where according to the last displacement tracking matrix, DTM round 49, we have over 465,935 households, IDPs, across just the Northeast region. This comprises of over 2.2 million individuals. That's to tell you the number of displaced persons from just the Northeast region. And this displacement is caused as a result of, majorly as a result of the insurgency across the region. And most of the IDPs in those regions live in informal camps, informal settlements, host communities, reception centers, and often, of course, some in poor conditions with hiding some of the health challenges and other things. But then, what did the government did in the region where it has the worst crisis of the IDPs? The government, with federal and state government, supported the humanitarian community by adopting the new strategy. In 2024, the new strategy is to have a durable solution for internal displacement. And this is in line with the UN Secretary General Action Agenda on Internal Displacement, where 15 countries, including Nigeria, were piloted for the durable solution. And what does the durable solution entail? The durable solution entails safe, dignified, and voluntary resettlement of IDPs. And how is that going to be done? It has three pathways. Either to return the IDPs to their place of origin, reintegrate them where they have stayed for 5-10 years, or relocate them to a new place that is safe. This is the new strategy. So in most of these places in northeast Nigeria and other parts of Nigeria, officially, most of these IDP camps are closed. But of course, even if you close an IDP camp, if you do not return the IDP to his place of origin, or if you don't reintegrate him voluntarily, safe and dignified into the existing host community, or if you don't relocate them into new locations, there still will be IDPs in self-set camps, in recreational centers, in places that are not even recognized by government. Just like my sister is saying, some of these camps are not even recognized or not official IDP camps, but they still exist. So the majority of this population, apart from the Northeast, are residing within the host community. And you can imagine a primary healthcare center in community A that is providing services for only 100 persons, and additional IDPs 200 came into the community. That facility, that water, that school will be overstretched. And that's why we have all these challenges. So some of the requirements to even do the durable solution, to do these three pathways, is one, there should be security and rule of law in the return areas. That community must be secured, there must be rule of law.
Just a second, Dr.
There
Goje.
must be housing and land.
I hope you can hear us. Just a second. You've said so much, and I really have so many things that I want to pick on and ask about. First off, you talked about either rehabilitating, reintegrating, or returning these IDPs to places where they might be from. This takes a lot of money. It also takes a lot of money to put together these IDP camps. We only get to see these, well, initially, and then after that, nothing happens. It resurfaces again, especially, and I'm careful when I say this, in times of campaigning. We see plenty of people go to IDP camps, or at least show interest in the well-being of people who live in IDP camps. Why is that the state of things in Nigeria when it comes to displaced people, if you want to rope in governance?
I think realistically, returning or resettling IDPs is a long process, and it cannot be done alone by government. And looking at the global perspective in the humanitarian cycle, there's a lot of donor fatigue, there are conflicts in a lot of places globally, and resources are being channeled to all those areas. But of course, the major responsibility is of government to return them safe and dignified. But whether we return them now, later, during campaign or whatever, the most important thing is the place safe for them to return? Is there voluntary and willingness for them to return, to relocate or to reintegrate? Has government meet up the requirements?
I guess what
these are things that takes time to do.
I guess what I'm trying to ask Dr. Goje is, are there interests when it comes to IDP camp creations in Nigeria? That's my main question. I think I should just put it forward. Are there interests? Are people perhaps maybe racketeering or making monies out of this? Because the quality of life in these places obviously does not compare to the amount of money Nigeria spends to try and take care of these people. And no sooner are these IDP camps set up, we don't hear much about them anymore. The next pictures we see are picture of dilapidated buildings or children living in squalid conditions. Who is making, if there are any, money from these IDP camps?
No government is willing deliberately to create an IDP camp. And the new, as I keep saying, the new agenda is to return them, reintegrate them, or resettle them. But of course, there are self-set IDP camps. Those that are, some are not even recognized by government. And you can't blame the IDPs because some of them, if there is no enabling environment for them to return or to reintegrate, of course, they can settle anywhere they find themselves. But these are processes that even globally takes a long time to do. You can, the recent flooding even in the United States has led to some displacement. Okay. So there are processes to return people, but then no government will deliberately create an IDP camp for whatever it is, because even managing an IDP camp is more expensive. Because changing people, feeding them, giving them stipend, distorting their way of thinking and way of livelihood is more expensive than even returning them to their communities or integrating them in the host community.
All right, Dr. Goje.
Thanks, Doctor, for that. Let me come into this here and ask you, Mercy. There are two things that I've read that sort of informed what I think IDP camps are. The very first one was an article that I read years ago, and I've been trying to find the title of that article. Big shout out to the guys at FIJ, and it was about a very gory situation happening in one of the IDP camps where their children were getting abducted, and when they find them, they're actually mutilated or dead. It was wild that, they were going around these IDP camps. And then the second was a book by Suleiman Adonia, which is Silence is My Mother's Tongue, which really just captures the chaos that happens in IDP camps. And as we talk about the existence of these IDP camps, I want to put into 4 women and children. Every of this story had to do with the lives of those women and their children and the trauma that they had to face. IDP camps are not supposed to be an entirety of their lives. They're supposed to be a transitionary period where they can stay for 3 or 4 months before they're reintegrated back. But until that happens, I want you to talk about the security and the lives of these women and what they face in those camps, just to bring to the fore how dire it is. Okay,
I like that question, but then let's move back to what Mr. Goje said about returning IDP camps, internally displaced persons back to the state of origin. Now, let's take a perfect example of what is going on in Jos. So they moved them out of that place because of insecurity, and then they moved them to someplace better. And then the government comes up maybe a few years later saying, oh, you want to move them back to those states. Does that even make any sense? How do you return people back to where they were traumatized? How does that even work? Now, let's move to the insecurity for women and children there. Like I said earlier on, I got to the school and then I saw goats, and we know that even in Nigeria, we are still fighting for equal and same access to rights for women and children. But then getting to the IDP camps, they barely even have security to say they have something protecting them to start with. I mean, I visit them often. I've chatted with some. So I started my own thingy because I wanted to just say, let education be easy for most of these children. But on getting there, how do you buy books for people that can barely feed themselves? How do you buy books for people that are insecure?
There's also period poverty as well.
There's period poverty, there's all of that. So I don't know who's watching, but I know that we just keep talking.
Do you suspect foul play? Do you suspect that something
is foul play?
This is me inquiring, because IDP camps are meant to be facilitated by funding, whether you like it or not. You don't just put people there.
Mr. Goje said something about some IDP camps not known by the government, but then it beats my imagination that there will be internet displaced persons in a particular place, and the government is now aware about that. It speaks incompetence, if you ask me. You mean people moved out from Jos, they moved out from Borno down to Abuja, they fenced an entire place, and the government is not aware that those persons are there. It reeks of incompetence, negligence, and I don't just want to go on and on.
I think what Mazzino is trying to say that in our society and maybe in our culture, and I hate to add religion as well, there's a part of alms giving, there's a part of alms giving as a main tenet of whether our religion or and our culture. And so those IDP camps have to stay for optics and for the sake of fulfilling those. Do you know what I mean? I guess that's what Mizino is trying to say, right? So when you look at politicians as well during the election period, they got to do those photo optics. When you think about whether Christianity or otherwise, they have to do those optics. So, yeah, so they have to go there. So do they exist to fulfill those parts of it?
I wouldn't say they exist because of that, because I started off mine because, as funny as it sounds, I had 16,000 naira left in my account, and then I was praying from the religious part, and I was praying and I got led to say, oh, go to social place and do social stuff. And then in getting there, I realized that this is not something I can do all by myself. It's way bigger. And subsequently, it became something I do often. But then talking about optics, I wouldn't say it's optics, because when I started off, I ensured that there was no picture, even if there are pictures taken, because you find out that most of the teachers want you to take pictures and say, don't you need pictures? No, I don't.
Yeah, because there's something I want to do.
It's just something I want to do out of the goodness of my heart. Oh, why are you not posting our pictures? I don't want it out there. It's just something I want to do because I want to really and deeply help these children. But then I'm still a firm believer about what your right hand does, your left hand shouldn't know about it, or what your left hand does, your right hand shouldn't know about it. But we cannot take away the fact that even without IDP camps, our politicians would always visit any school and sit down with students and act like they're feeding
themselves. Well, there was one time that a certain governor went to roast corn and barb people's hair and cut people's hair in barbing shops, so there's that. Sorry, ABC Joe.
Dr. Goje, what must Nigeria do when it comes to taking care of people in these IDP camps, whether it's resettling, reintegrating, or returning them? What's missing in the equation here? Because it's not supposed to be a permanent situation, it's only supposed to be temporary. So who's not doing their jobs, whether these are government IDP camps or whether they're IDP camps that sprung up like you've submitted? What must be done?
I think I want to add to what Mercy has said. The other aspect is it's not that every IDP must return to his place of origin. There has to be an intention survey. The IDP must agree whether to return, to relocate, or to reintegrate. But the key challenges are, when you are returning, you have to look at the security concern of that areas, the available infrastructure, the protection concerns, including land disputes, limited livelihood opportunities, GBB, rape issues, and other things, the environmental consideration in camp decommissioning. But then when you ask what is missing or who is responsible, these are processes. And it's not just government alone. It goes through up to where and how partners come in, how they complement the existing government effort, because these are areas that need huge investment. But then, as a policy, there has to be strengthened collaboration between government and humanitarian development actors to ensure smooth transition from the emergency aid to recovery. Then resources must be prioritized to mobilize for housing, land right, infrastructure, and social services. Then there has to be embedded accountability issues, and communities must be engaged in the decision-making process to ensure that voluntary and informed choices are made. So, and all these things centers towards government. And government is not just at state, local government, or federal level, but it's just a collaborative effort across all aspects. But most important aspect is, it is a process that takes time to achieve and enough more resources to be imposed. And the key challenges that we're facing now, with the withdrawal of the US aid, which has affected a lot of aspects of the IDP response, humanitarian response, especially in the Northeast region, the burden has come back more to the government now, closing the existing gaps that the USAID is supporting, and also ensuring that Nigeria's safe, voluntary, and dignified solution to displacement is achieved.
Oh.
A solid points you make, sir. Solid points.
Thank you for that part about the USAID there, because I was wondering exactly how that fits in, but you've made it very clear. It's now more the Nigerian government's responsibility. Dr. Goje, I want to say thank you very much. And Mercy, thank you very much for your advocacy. We do hope that there's result behind it, that you see people either, like we have noted, be returned to their places of origin, or at least their lives made easier. We empathize with everybody who's living in these conditions, because it can't be easy. Thank you once again.
You're welcome.